Yo, what is going on? I'm here today with a very requested video. This is my Smogon Premier League Week 1 match. Yes, that's right. The Smogon Premier League has started again, and I decided to sign up and play. I'm playing Sun and Moon OU for this week. I'll be playing a bunch of tiers though. I'll be playing Sword and Shield OU later on in the season as well. I might play some Gen 6 OU, all that stuff. I like all the tiers with team preview, but for the first week, I am playing Sun and Moon. So the team I'm on is the Dragon Spiral Tyrants. Same team as last year, where we just so close. We came up short of the trophy though, but we were one of the most powerful teams. I decided to sign my contract again with that team. I was retained for 28.5k, super racks. I think I was second most expensive player. Ain't nothing new. Should have been the most expensive, but shit, you know what it is. I spared the competition this time. But either way, yeah, I'm playing versus Sweet Pasho for week 1. My team is pretty cool. I guess I'll go over that real quick, because I'm not going to make a video dedicated to it. This is a power rankings. This is like hella text. Hold on. I'll just pull up my team. You can see they make these rankings. They're really long. This is my team. Pretty cool. So you can see my boy CBB is in the ORAS slot. That must be the strongest Gen 7 and Gen 6 core of all time. Me plus CBB. And then we got some old staples like Troller from last year and CTC, shit like that. So this will be interesting. Got my friend TDK, Cristo, etc. We're back on this team. We got ranked number 1 on the power rankings, because you can see ORAS OU, CBB was ranked number 1. Sun Moon OU, I was ranked number 1. RBY OU, we had the number 1 player Troller. So our team overall was ranked number 1. People, like, we were predicted to win, as you can see, we're at the top. But I don't know, man. That could be a curse too. Last year we came up short, but I'm thinking this year it's the time to win. So with that introduction out the way, let's get into it. So I'm playing Sun and Moon OU. So I mean, I assume most people are familiar, but if you're not, this is Generation 7, not Sword and Shield OU. So Z moves and stuff were legal around this time. Stuff like the Tapus, Greninja, all that stuff was found in the game too. You can see basically every mon on my team isn't in Gen 8. I don't think a single mon I'm using can be found in Gen 8. That's quite funny. But yeah, looking at the team I use, it's a hyper offense team. My buddy Empo gave me this team long ago, and I kind of like it. I mean, it's very standard hyper offense. There's nothing really surprising or creative about this build, but it was strong enough. My opponent Pasho, now I've played him quite a few times before, but he hasn't really played in a long time, and I didn't really know how decent he was at Gen 7. In general, I just expected this guy to use a balanced team. I didn't think he would use Celesteela. From the games I saw from him, he used a lot of Magearna and he used a lot of Toxapex as well. So I expected him to have Magearna or Heatran as his primary steel type, as opposed to Celesteela, because if he had Celesteela, it would be a lot harder for Alakazam and Tapu Lele to get through that. But looking at his team, I was like, okay, he's pretty weak to Zam, even with what's likely going to be specially defensive specially defensive Magearna. I can break through that thing with Tapu Lele. This team originally had Scarf Greninja and Z-Move Kartana, and then it had Specs Lele, I think, but I made the Tapu Lele Metronome so I could break better. I made the Greninja Z-Move Water, 4 attacks instead of Scarf, and then I made the Kartana Scarf instead. These are some last minute changes. I figured Scarf Kartana and Z-Move Greninja would be better, and honestly his team, like, I don't know, it didn't really make a difference. Scarf Greninja was definitely useless versus this team. Scarf Kartana is a little bit better, but SD Kartana would have been better all around. But either way, it was fine. I had some good Pokemon on my team for the most part. Assault Vest, Magearna, and physically defensive Landers were my defensive core. Had to keep Landers healthy for Excadrill, but other than that, it shouldn't have been too hard. So let's hop into it. Looking at the lead possibilities, I knew he was probably going to lead off with either Torn, or what did I expect? I just expected him to lead off with Torn, honestly. Torn or Magearna. I was like, dude, he's not going to lead off with anything else. And I figured Magearna would be a bad lead just because the possibility of me leading off with Landorus existed. So I figured he was going to lead off with Torn. And so I led off with my Alakazam turn 1. Now, I knew that there's no way his Tornadus is going to be Z-Move Hurricane, because Z-Move Sky Strike would 1-hit KO me. So that could be a bad lead matchup. But I knew there's no way he was Z-Move on his Torn, because Excadrill was likely to have the Z-Move. And also, I just thought that this is his primary grass resist. Stuff like Magearna and Latios can be slower. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, I guess Torn's only faster than Serp, but in general, I figured that this would be one of his pivots into stuff like U-turn, grass moves, so I figured that it's less likely for this to be an offensive version, most likely just going to be Helmet. So I Mega Evolve turn 1, and I go for the Psychic, and it does 59%, which basically confirms to me he's max HP, because that didn't do too much at all. He goes for Knockoff, he does 56%. The problem with this Alakazam is that I'm actually running Taunt, as opposed to Recover. More often than not, I'd run Recover, but this team had Taunt, and I like Taunt only for when you play specially defensive Jirachi. Now, he didn't even use any Jirachi in some of the replays I saw of him. When I typically prep for an opponent, I watch like 3 or 4 replays just to get a feel of how they play. That's how I knew he was going to lead off with Torn, because I kind of had a thought on how he played. But he didn't really use anything like Jirachi, but either way, I didn't feel like changing the Alakazam. I kept Taunt. Unfortunately, Recover would have been better this battle, but I'm going to switch that turn because I traced Regenerator, so I'm going to be back at 77% when I come back in. I also know that he's not staying in to die to Psychic. He's definitely bringing in his Magearna, so I hit the double the Landers because I want to get up my rocks turn 2. That works out well for me. I'm able to just put my rocks up right now, put a little pressure on Excadrill to spin if it has it, or for Torn to just take the rocks. I U-turn out of here, I bring in my Greninja as he gets up rocks. Now here, I kind of misplay. I go for Extra Sensor here, expecting him to bring in Pex. It's a fine play. He goes for Earthquake here, predicting me to overpredict. Maybe he thought I could be Ash and go for a Spike as well. Either way, him staying in was a pretty good play. Now this second turn, I really didn't expect him to stay in. He didn't really have a need to. After getting off the first Earthquake, my Gren was good as dead because I don't have removal. But he stays in, which kind of annoyed me. I get off a little bit more chip as he just finishes me off. However, I did weaken the Hippowdon in Psychic range and among other things. Now this sucked. Looking back at it, HP Fire was a pretty bad play. I don't know why I didn't just go for Z Water, because like Z Water would have done more to Magearna anyway. I don't know, HP Fire was a pretty whack play. I should have just gone for Z Water or even Extra Sensory again. Pretty stupid play. I basically throw my Greninja when it had quite a decent matchup, so can't be too proud about that. It was my Z move mon as well. Really fucked that up. So this one I was like, okay, I kind of messed up the initiative I started off with. Either way, I'm going to bring in Tapu Lele here and just go for the Psyshock, as he is going to bring in his Magearna. I'm not Specs. If I was Specs, this would have been better, but I'm actually Metronome. Yeah, I probably should have kept it Specs. He reveals to be leftovers, which means he's more than likely Pain Split, Heart Swap, which makes sense because he's pretty weak to stuff like Latias and Reuniclus and all that anyway. Psyshock again, do 33% this time as he goes for Flash Cannon. I'm max special attack, modest. He goes to Torn here. He picks a sack. He sacks that, which is nice. That was one of the few things that could have been annoying to Kartana, so it was nice that he let me kill that thing. He goes into this. Here I know he's going to Mega an Earthquake, but I can't go into Alakazam just because he could go for the Ice Beam. But like, see, this is a play where it's like impossible to really like explain it, but I'll do it to the best of my ability. I know the Latios is going to have Ice Beam on it too. Off the rip, I know it's going to be, well, I knew it was Mega because no other Mega slot, and I knew it was going to have Earthquake and just be the offensive set, but I knew it would have Ice Beam rather than Draco Meteor because this team is actually pretty weak to Gliscor otherwise, so Ice Beam Latios would be good insurance. So either way, I knew he could only hit my Tapu Lele with Ice Beam or Earthquake. He's not going to go for Psychic here. Now he could go for Earthquake, predicting me to go into Magearna if that's what I wanted to pivot, but if I went into Alakazam on Ice Beam instead of Earthquake, because obviously Alakazam could come in on Earthquake because it traces the Levitate. Either way, this was tough. I knew he would go for Earthquake, but I could not go into Zam regardless, because if for some reason he went for Ice Beam, I would have lost right there. Either way, I go into my Alakazam here. Like I said, I'm pretty sure looking at the composition of the team, it has to be Ice Beam Latios, and there's no way he's going to be Draco Meteor. So I'm comfortable bringing this in. He actually stays in here and takes 71%, which was a really bad play by him. And when he did that, I was like, dude, I'm going to win with Scarf Kartana, because you're looking at it, Magearna's quite low too. Pex, you know, that thing gets to it KO'd by Leaf Blade if it's Spadef. He goes into this thing on Psychic, and then I was like, okay, you're in Focus Blast range though. He starts pivoting around. He brings in Pex here. I think he did this because if I missed Focus Blast, then he would have lived Psychic, because he would have been at 94%, but he dies at 76. So he sort of starts switching around kind of crazy and sacks his Mons. He sacks the Magearna, which was great for me because that thing was in Leaf Blade range, but then he sacked it, and I was like, all right, excellent. At this point, like, he basically let everything that could have taken a Leaf Blade get damaged. This thing now can no longer take a Leaf Blade because it's at 12% after it kills me with Scald. This thing's at 5% after rocks. Torn's dead, and Magearna's dead, so I was like, bet. This Scarf card is actually going to save me, as opposed to SD, which would have been worse. I bring this guy in. I go for the Leaf Blade here as he sacks the Hippowdon, which makes sense. Now at this point, the only thing he can really do is go into his Excadrill and flinch me or crit me. So he goes into Excadrill. It's probably just regular Z move, but I mean, even Earthquake crit won't kill me from this range because Kartana obviously has sky high physical defense. So I was feeling pretty good at this point. I was like, not bad. Anyway, he goes for Iron Head. He flinches me. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He actually got it, but it's fine. He still needs either an Earthquake crit or another flinch. He Iron Heads again. He gets a good roll and then he flinches me again, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? I just won this game, but he got double flinch. That's 9% odds. I was like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll fucking figure this out. Either way, I know Earthquake kills me here. He makes a double into Toxapex to get some more leftovers recovery. Regenerator recovery. That way he can live Leaf Blade later on, which is a good plan on his part. Here I know he's gonna switch to Latios, but I don't have the balls to click knockoff, just in case he recovers with his Toxapex. Because if that thing got back to full HP, I would have lost. He goes for Psychic here, even though he revealed Ice Beam. The reason he didn't kill me is because if he did kill me, I would have beat him. Because if he killed me with Ice Beam, my Kartana would have come in, Leaf Blade, killed this thing, got the +1 attack, and then definitely killed and swept through. But I U-turn out of here, I knocked that thing out, and now I'm going to bring in my cart. Yup. Okay, I bring in cart here as he brings in Toxapex. Okay, bet. I Leaf Blade here, do 50%, so I know it's a 2K. He goes for Scald, which is fine. He just needs to not burn me. But he burns me. I was like, dude, there's no way this is real. He's such, like, I don't know how he did it. He got double flinch and then the burn, so he's still able to survive by just a hair. He brings in his Excadrill and he's gonna live because he burned me, like we said. I do 64%, which is still quite a bit, as he Iron Heads to knock me out. And now I bring in my Landorus T to get the Intimidate, because even though I know this thing's gonna die to Iron Head at this point, I know Magearna can live Earthquake at -1. He goes for what reveals to be Z Breakneck Blitz, I guess to hit Zapdos and stuff like that. But I bring in Magearna here. I'm like, okay, great. I just need to not get crit by Earthquake. I have the Tech HP Fire. I can live this. He goes for Iron Head again. What do you think happens? This man flinches me. At this point, I was like, bro, how is this possible? He got the 2 flinches in a row to save himself first, and then the burn to save himself, and then the 4th. I was like, dude, what is going on? This team, his team, the Team Raiders, they had hacked us like every game, but I got to see it firsthand here. I was ready to go crazy. I was like, dude, what is going on? But it turns out, despite all of that, Earthquake still doesn't kill at 69% apparently, because he's at -1, so he has to go for another flinch. Fortunately, this time he doesn't get the 5th 30% hacks, and I break out an HP Fire, and I was like, oh my god, thank the Lord. I said GG agency. Damn, this was tough. This was a scary game, dude. Honestly, I played my Greninja really bad. I don't think this game was that good play-wise on either side. I think it was pretty bad. I think he like sacked everything. That he had the necessary counters to a lot of my mons, but he just threw them out. And then once he killed my Greninja, I feel like he should have had it wrapped up. But hey, I'm not gonna complain. I somehow ran away with it. That Excadrill really scared me, dude. All that hacks. But fortunately, I get to start off with 1-0, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that was my first game at Sun Moon. I guess I can play CBB's game too, because he's not gonna upload obviously, and I might as well play his because everyone's interested in watching him. And he is my teammate, so he's playing this SPL. We'll put his game on as well. Might as well just, you know, do a little double little feature, you feel me? So CBB is playing Oras OU. He loves Gen 6 OU. It's like his favorite tier. He'll probably play this the whole SPL. But yeah, he has oh, by the way, when I won that game, we were down 1-4, I think, or no, we were down 2-4 for the week. So we were down 2-4, but then I won and we tied it up 3-4, and then CBB played right after me when the score was 3-4. So we were still down. Anyway, CBB is using a pretty standard looking offense. He has Life Orb, Clefable, pretty cool tech. His opponent's using a team that looks pretty weird. He has mons like Excadrill and regular Slowbro. I don't think those mons are that good. Talonflame is a pretty cool pick. I haven't seen it in a while. But CBB is running Toxic Garchomp and Rotom Wash, and CBB's Rotom Wash is actually modest, and modest Rotom can actually hit pretty hard. Normally stuff on Lycan's team like Talonflame and Slowbro could take the electric or water super effective hits, but because this is a modest invested Rotom, it's going to do quite a bit more. But other than that, I think Lycan's has a pretty good matchup. If it's Earth Power Diancie, then it's going to be able to destroy Metagross and then kill everything else with Moonblast. Talonflame in general can be annoying if he's able to burn and outlast the other Pokemon, and Weavile's definitely a big threat too with Ice Cold Crash and Knockoff. But either way, if CBB is able to keep rocks up, I figured he could have a good chance because a lot of Lycans' team is Stealth Rock weak, as you can see. But he leads off with Rotom Wash as Lycans leads off with Diancie. Dude goes for Protect turn 1, and then what's it called? Yeah, and then he pivots into Ferrothorn as CBB makes a nice Volt Switch out turn 1. Now CBB goes right into his Clefable. Now this is a pretty good play by CBB because he's basically bluffing the Rocks Clef by going into it off the bat, when in reality he's Life Orb Flamethrower, which more than likely will be able to kill the Ferrothorn. And even if Lycans goes into his Diancie here trying to predict the Flamethrower, it's still going to take a decent amount of damage because it is Life Orb boosted. He goes for Flamethrower here. It does 83, which kind of surprised me. It means this Ferrothorn's like full Spadef. As he goes for a Thunder Wave. But this is a good trade for CBB because, like I said in the beginning of the game, he's modest Rotom, and now the main electric water resist is at 7%. CBB makes a great play here. He switches out into his Garchomp as Lycans goes into his Excadrill. I don't really get why Lycans made this switch. I thought if he was going to switch, it would be to Talonflame, and I think that's what CBB expected as well. But going into Excadrill made no sense because if he Moonblasted, this thing took 35%. And unless, okay, I guess it could be specially defensive with leftovers, which means it would have tanked Flamethrower anyway. Maybe this is his rocks. Either way, CBB puts on amazing pressure, gets up his rocks. The Ferrothorn's basically dead at this point. Diancie's evolved and still couldn't stop the rocks. Now CBB makes another great play. He goes for Toxic. Now, Toxic, when he first went for this play and I saw this thing take Ice Beam, I was like, I'm not sure if I would agree with that play because I thought he might want to keep this thing to switch into Talonflame and Excadrill. But looking back at it, I've realized this was a really good play because CBB's Metagross, its best move versus Slowbro is Pursuit, which means that normally Slowbro would completely wall Mega Metagross. But him putting the Toxic on Slowbro basically opens up a whole nother win condition for him, which is that his Metagross can sweep because Slowbro getting chipped by that Toxic every turn is going to add up. So him going for Toxic was a great play because it basically opened up a brand new win condition, and I didn't notice that at first. Anyway, Rotom Wash comes in here on the Scald. Fortunately for CBB, he does not get burned. That's always nice, man, when your Rotom doesn't get burned by Scald. He goes for Volt Switch here as Lycans does not want to risk anything. As you can see, Volt Switch does 64, which is just obviously shows how invested that is. He slacks off here, takes a little bit of toxic damage as I believe he stays in yet again to slack off as CBB just U-turns, brings in Rotom Wash, and yeah. So on this turn, it's pretty obvious that CBB could go for Hydro Pump if he wanted to, but for that reason, I think there's no point, and Lycans is more than likely just going to sack his Ferrothorn. So CBB makes quite a great play here. He knows that the Ferrothorn sack is coming, so he goes into Ferrothorn. He goes into Metagross to check that basically. This thing also stops Diancie from coming in for free and forces in the Talonflame. CBB switches out, brings her Rotom Wash. It has to take the burn at this point, but it's fine. Because even though burn is 12% in Gen 6, leftovers kind of negates half of that. He goes for Hydro Pump here, and as you can see, it does a ton of damage, 99% to Talonflame, which is great. I would have Volt Switched here. CBB stays in and goes for Hydro Pump again. I understand why he did it, just in case Lycan stayed in again. But I felt like it was super obvious he'd switch. And even if he was down to 30%, it would have been fine. But I mean, it is what it is. Now CBB gets kind of outplayed, Volt Switch, but I mean, it's kind of late for Lycans to be making all these funny plays. Like, it doesn't matter that he's doing this at this juncture. He goes into Tornadus here as Lycans goes for Earthquake, just hoping that CBB sacks Rotom in desperation. But I think he should have just spun. He shouldn't have been greedy and gone for that right there. Rapid Spin, Heat Wave, and then Rocks go up, but the Excadrill does take a decent amount, which isn't bad. He U-turns out of here and brings in Latios as Lycan stays in and just goes for Earthquake, predicting CBB to go for a U-turn. CBB goes for a Side Shock just to sack his Latios at this point. It's not that useful when it's going to die to Brave Bird at this range, die to Diancie, and get trapped by Weavile. He switches out and brings in Clefable here on Knockoff, which is a nice play. Diancie comes in here on Moonblast, which does 57% and gets a special attack drop. Metagross comes in on Diamond Storm, I believe, which does only 23%, and because of the special attack drop, even a possible Earth Power won't be enough. But CBB makes a crazy play and doubles into Garchomp, expecting the Slowbro sack. Now here he's going to be able to go for an Earthquake, which is a great play because then he can guarantee a kill with his get a kill with his Rotom. But his opponent just times out because the pressure was just too much. CBB's timer didn't even show up this game, bro. Well, actually it did show up a shit ton, but his opponent had like 5 seconds left at this point because he had just been taking too long. Honestly, I think CBB had this game completely bagged up. Rotom destroyed him. Metagross could have destroyed him as well because of that pursuit. So I mean, Metagross, once it evolved, would have been able to trap this 30% Talonflame, stuff like that. It would have been easy, dude. I don't think Lycans had a chance. And the way the game was going, CB was outplaying every turn, so we're gonna give CB the 6-0. That's basically the 2 games for today. SPL. At this point, it was 4-4 for the week. We ended up tying the week 6-6. Kind of sucked. I would have rather we won the week. So we did better in the standings, but it is what it is. We'll bounce back, of course. We just got unlucky. You see how unlucky I got in my game, but fortunately, you know, they let me win. But hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back. Peace.